Hello everyone, welcome to our channel Biological Concept. In today's video, we will discuss on MHC I versus MHC II. That is Major Histocompatibility Complex 1 versus Major Histocompatibility Complex 2. MHC plays major role in immune system. Now before discussing the similarities and differences between the MHC I and MHC II, let's know what is MHC molecules and what is its role in the immune system. So let's start. First of all, we will discuss on what is major histocompatibility complex. The major histocompatibility complex, that is the MHC, is a large locus on vertebrate DNA that contain a set of closely linked polymorphic genes. This polymorphic genes means the genes that have varying allelic forms. And these polymorphic genes code for cell surface proteins, which are essential for the adaptive immune system. These cell surface proteins are called as MHC molecules. So in short, the MHC molecules are cell surface proteins, which are essential for the adaptive immune system. And this is encoded by the polymorphic genes present in the locus on vertebrate DNA. The name of this locus comes from the discovery through the study of transplanted tissue compatibility. The MHC molecules are found in all higher vertebrates. In human, the MHC is known as human leukocyte antigen, that is the HLA complex. Now we will discuss the role of MHC. MHC play important role to identify between the self and non-self. Now why this identification between the self and non-self is very essential, we'll discuss very shortly. MHC also play important role in the recognition of intracellular organism and also responsible for antigen presentation. Now histo refers to tissue and compatibility refers to the living together harmoniously. The MHC determines the donor compatibility for organ transplant. During the organ transplantation, the donor tissue or organ is transferred to the recipient. But the recipient has a tendency to reject the donor tissue or organ. Now, why the recipient reject this? The rejection behind this is that the donor is different persons from the recipient, and anything from the body from a donor is foreign or non-self for the recipient. Now, how the body can distinguish between the self and non-self? And this self and non-self recognition is determined by the MHC molecules, which have already discussed that MHC plays major role for to identify the between self and non-self. Okay. MHC also determines the donor compatibility for organ transplant. We have already discussed. That is the tissue or graft that is when transplanted from the donor to recipient, there is a tendency to rejection. Because of this, MHC molecules can recognize this donor tissue as non-self. MHC also determines one's susceptibility to the autoimmune diseases. Okay. Now, the T cells does not recognize and bind the antigen on its own. Rather, it is recognized and bind antigen when it is bound to the MHC molecules. Now, the TH, that is T helper cells, are recognized by the MHC2 molecules, whereas the cytotoxic T cells are recognized by the MHC1 molecules. Next is the classification. The MHC molecules are classified mainly into three categories, that is class 1 MHC, class 2 MHC and class 3 MHC. Class 1 MHC is expressed in all nucleated cells, okay, whereas the class 2 MHC are expressed on antigen presenting cells. Antigen presenting cells, APC, that is antigen presenting cells like B cells, dendritic cells, etc. The class 1 MHC are present the endogenous peptide antigen, whereas the class 2 present the exogenous peptide antigens. Exogenous. Okay. Class 1 is present endogenous. This is endogenous peptide antigen. Endogenous peptide antigen, and class 2 present the exogenous peptide antigen. But the class 3 MHC molecules does not have any role in the antigen presentation. Rather, it's involved in complement activation. Complement activation, and also in the inflammation that is caused by cytokines and tumor necrosis factor. Now, next is we will discuss on what are the similarities between the MHC I and MHC II. Both MHC I and MHC II are surface antigens that are expressed on the cell membrane. Both present antigen to T cells, because the T helper cells recognize and present the antigen to by MHC II molecules, whereas cytotoxic T cells are recognized and bound by the MHC I molecules. Both MHC I and MHC II are involved in the development of immunoresponse against foreign antigens. Both molecules are synthesized in the rough endoplasmic reticulum. Both MHC I and MHC II are encoded by the genes present in the HLA location. And the expression of genes in both molecules are codominant. These are the similarities between the MHC I molecules and MHC II. Now, we will discuss the structural differences and structure of this MHC I and MHC II. This is the structure of MHC I and this is MHC II. Now, look at this, that the MHC I and MHC II both are consist of alpha 1 and alpha chain and beta chains. But in case of MHC I molecules, the alpha chain is quite long in compared to MHC II molecules. The alpha chain in MHC I is consist of alpha 1, alpha 2 and alpha 3 domain, whereas the MHC II molecules contain alpha 1 and alpha 2 domain. And the peptide binding cleft in case of MHC I is alpha 1 and alpha 2. Alpha 1 and alpha 2 form the peptide binding cleft in case of MHC I molecules, whereas in case of class 2 MHC molecules, the alpha 1 and beta 1 form the peptide binding cleft. These are the transmembrane segment and these are the cytoplasmic tail. And this is the membrane proximal domain and these are membrane distal domain. Okay. Now, coming to the part that is the differences between MHC I and MHC II. The structural difference of MHC I and MHC II is like that. The MHC I molecule is composed of two non-identical chains, the long alpha chain and short beta chain. We have already discussed in the when we will discuss on the structure of MHC I and MHC II molecules in the diagrammatic structure. Okay. In case of MHC II molecules, it is composed of alpha and beta chains which are almost identical. Location. MHC I are found in the cell surface of all nucleated cells. And MHC II are found in the antigen presenting cells which include B cells, macrophages and dendritic cells. The location of MHC I and MHC II are also already discussed. Okay. Now the interaction with T cells. MHC I molecules interact mainly with cytotoxic T cells, whereas MHC II interacts with the helper T cells. Encoded genes. MHC I is encoded by the genes that is HLA-A, HLA-B and HLA-C, whereas the MHC II is encoded by HLA-D genes. The encoded chromosome. The alpha domain are encoded of chromosome 6 and the beta genes are encoded by chromosome 15, whereas the MHC II genes are encoded on chromosome 6. Nature of antigen presentation. MHC I presents the endogenous antigens that are originated from the cytoplasm, whereas the MHC II present exogenous antigens that are originated extracellularly from the foreign bodies such as pathogens. Next, the antigen presenting domains. The alpha-1 and alpha-2 domains are involved in the presentation of antigens in MHC I molecules, whereas the alpha-1 and beta-1 domains are involved in the presentation of antigens in the MHC II molecules. The responsive cells. MHC I molecules present antigen to cytotoxic T cells, whereas MHC II molecules present exogenous antigens to the helper T cells. Number 8 is responsive co-receptor. MHC I molecule binds to CD8+ receptor on the cytotoxic T cell, whereas MHC II molecules bind to the CD4+ receptor on the helper T cells. Number 9 is enzymes that are involved in generating the peptides. In MHC I molecules, cytosolic proteasome involved in the generation of peptides, whereas in MHC II molecules, lysosomal and endosomal protease are involved in generation of peptides. Number 10. Peptide loading of MHC. In case of MHC I, peptides are loaded in the endoplasmic reticulum, whereas in case of MHC II molecules, the peptides are loaded in specialized vesicular compartment. The function. MHC I involves in the clearance of endogenous antigens, whereas the MHC II involves in clearance of exogenous antigens. These are all about the differences and similarities of MHC I and MHC II molecules. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel, and also press the bell icon to get notification. Thank you.